Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the March 12th, 2013 St. Patrick's Day Downers Grove Village Council meeting. There are copies of our agenda on either side of the room. If you'd like to pick one up and follow along with our proceedings tonight, I would encourage you to do so. There will be multiple opportunities for public comment, both with respect to items on our agenda as well as with respect to items not on our agenda. It's my privilege to call this meeting to order. As you know, we had a little bit of an unexpected or unplanned snow day last week, so we did not meet. This is our first meeting of March. It is customary for us to begin our meetings by reciting the Pledge of Allegiance, and we have some very special guests here tonight who are going to help us with the Pledge of Allegiance. We have PAC 36 here tonight, and I had a lot of good questions, and I'll warn all my fellow commissioners that they're going to have some really tough questions for you pretty close. I'm not answering any of them. I'm giving them all to you. So I'd like to ask PAC 36 to please come up in front here and sort of spread out a little bit, and ask everyone else to please rise. And as soon as you guys come on up here on the risers, that's okay. There you go. That'll work. All right, the flag is right there. We'll turn around and please join us in reciting the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Well done, PAC 36. All right, now I understand that there's 2 or 3 members of PAC 36 that might have some questions of the Village Council. If you do, then what I'd ask you to do is come up to the podium. We'll move that microphone down a little bit, and you can ask questions of the council. So does any one of you have any questions for the Village Council? We'll take 3 of them. Young man, please come on up. All right, yeah, you guys, that's fine. You guys can go over there, line up behind the podium. Mr. Baker will assist you with the high-tech audio. And what we would ask is that you please give us your name and where you go to school, and then we'd love to hear your question.
My name is Kaden. I go to Lay School, and my question is, what is the hardest part about your job?
What is the hardest part about our job? That's a good question because it depends on what day it is. Sometimes it's getting the meeting started on time. Other times it's reaching that consensus that we were talking about in the meeting. A lot of different things depending on what's going on. Sometimes when, here's the answer. When you're dealing with an issue and there's no wrong answer and there are multiple viewpoints, remember we were talking about what toppings to put on a pizza? Nobody's wrong. Everybody just has their different view. And you still have to come up with a decision. You can only order one pizza. That can be really tough because no one's wrong and no one's right. You have to come up with something that everybody can live with. That's probably the toughest part. Good question. Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir. I was going to say young man is what I meant to say. Name and what school you go to.
My name is Glenn. I go to Lace School. My question is, how long does it usually take for them to count the votes when there's the usual amount of candidates running for mayor?
Very good question. And again, I'll have to ask you to be more specific. Are we talking about DuPage County or Cook County? In Cook County, I think they're counted before the election. I don't know the answer to that question. I don't know if the village attorney might know or the village clerk might know based on experience with the DuPage County Election Commission.
The votes are counted by the end of the night. The results are available that evening and the next morning.
Okay.
And when are the official results usually out?
It takes about a week for that.
Good question. Thank you. Yes, sir.
My name is Luke. I go to Lay School. Do you deal with the residents' complaints, or if you don't, who does?
Everybody within your field of view will address a resident complaint from time to time. In fact, I hazard to say you might hear 1 or 2 even this evening if you listen very carefully. But what we usually try to do is make sure that whoever the question is directed to, that the best resource within the organization will provide the response so that that person can get the best information that fits their situation. So I might get the question and I might refer it to somebody else, or Commissioner Waldeck might get the question and refer it to someone else. Commissioner Barnett might get the question, but he usually handles himself because he knows all the answers. But the rest of us will usually refer it to someone within staff. Good question. Thank you very much. All right. Good job, PAC 36. Thanks for being here. All right. Now we get to the roll call, which is item 2. This is the time when I ask our fine village clerk to please call the roll.
Commissioner Rankin? Here. Commissioner Barnett?
Here.
Commissioner Newstead?
Here.
Commissioner Durkin?
Here.
Commissioner Waldeck?
Here.
Commissioner Schnell?
Here.
Mayor Tully?
Here. Thank you very much. It brings us to item 3 on our agenda, minutes of prior council meetings. We have one set of minutes from our regular council meeting on February 19th, 2013. Are there any questions or comments, changes or corrections with respect to those minutes? Hearing none, do I have a motion to approve?
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? None. Those minutes are approved. It brings us to item 4, public comments. This is the segment of the meeting where we entertain general comments on matters not appearing on our agenda. So if there are any general questions or comments or questions of a general nature with respect to matters that are not appearing on our agenda tonight, we would ask that you please come up to the podium, give us your name and address, and we would welcome hearing from you. You don't want to disappoint me and leave the PAC 36 without any complaints, Mr. Faley.
No complaints
All right.
tonight, Mr. Mayor.
Good evening.
Commissioners and staff, hi. Frank Falish, 820 Prairie Avenue. I just want to remind everybody, the Downers Grove Watch is having a forum for the candidates for commissioner on the 23rd of March at 10 a.m. at the Lincoln School, or Lincoln Center. And we want to make sure everybody knows about that and gets out. We've got a good group of candidates that are running, and may the best person win. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Falish. Thank you for sharing that, and thank you to the Watch organization for hosting that forum. I agree with you 100%. The more people can learn about the candidates for office, this one or any other one, the better. Any other questions or comments from members of the audience on a general nature, of a general nature? All right, hearing none. Very good. We will move to item 5, which is for public hearings. We have no public hearings tonight, so we'll move to item 6, which is our consent agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented?
So moved. Second.
Any questions or comments from any members of the audience with respect to the items on the consent agenda? Any questions or comments from any members of the village council with respect to any items on the consent agenda? Hearing none. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Schnell?
Aye.
Commissioner Durkin?
Aye.
Commissioner Rankin?
Aye.
Commissioner Barnett?
Aye.
Commissioner Newstead?
Aye.
Commissioner Waldeck?
Aye.
Mayor Tully?
Aye. Consent agenda passes unanimously, which brings us to the active agenda. We have 4 items on the active agenda tonight. 7A is the first one. Do I have a motion to award a contract for $114,500 to Duncan and Associates for a comprehensive update of zoning ordinance and subdivision control ordinance?
Mayor Tully, I move to award a contract in the amount of $114,500 to Duncan and Associates Incorporated for a comprehensive update of the Downers Grove zoning ordinance and subdivision control ordinance.
Second.
Questions or comments on this item from any members of the audience? Questions or comments from members of the village council? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Schnell?
Aye.
Commissioner Durkin?
Aye.
Commissioner Rankin?
Aye.
Commissioner Barnett?
Aye.
Commissioner Newstead?
Aye.
Commissioner Waldeck?
Aye.
Mayor Tully?
Aye. The matter passes unanimously. Brings us to item 7B as in boy. Do I have a motion to approve a labor agreement with the Illinois Fraternal Order of Police Labor Council?
Mayor Tully, I move to approve the labor agreement with the Illinois Fraternal Order of Police Labor Council and to authorize the mayor and village clerk to sign the agreement on behalf of the village and to take the steps necessary to implement the terms thereof.
Second.
Any questions or comments on this item from any members of the audience? Questions or comments from members of the village council? Commissioner Newstead.
Thank you, Mayor. I know that there are representatives from the FOP here tonight and also our team from the management side. And each time that we approve a contract for an association in our village, it does 2 things. It ensures employee rights and management rights, and those are 2 very important things for every employee in our village. We have a good agreement here that has been agreed upon in good faith. We worked well together. The teams from both sides worked hard to come up with an agreement, and we finally got to a spot that is fair. The wage increases in this contract are fair, but I think the other important thing is that we work together to find a way with the side letter to come up with a new shift component that will offer our residents better service. And I think that that's an important thing to look at, where the contract can be turned into a benefit for the community. I think it'll be a benefit for our officers and our department, and I look forward to seeing how the 12-hour shifts are implemented and they come out. I'm sure it's going to be great. So I will be in full support of this tonight. I think it's great that we have the ability to have these pretty intense conversations at the level we do. They don't always get the limelight because they're sometimes tough, but in the end, we get to a spot where we can say we've all come to that table and agreed upon something very important. So I'm very happy to be here tonight to be able to hopefully get this approved. And again, I'll be in support of it tonight, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Barnett?
Thanks, Mayor. A couple of comments, if you'd let me. These touch on the next 3 agenda items. I'd like to just read it one time and kind of wrap up my thoughts for the evening, if it's okay. Apologize for the sort of formal nature of this, but I wanted to make sure my thoughts were collected and presented accurately. Let me start by saying I'm in complete support of the performance of the village manager and the village attorney, and I want to go on record expressing the same. But I do not support the compensation changes proposed this evening. At one point, we had unanimous consent on a plan different than that one before us tonight, one that ultimately failed in closed session after sitting for a couple of weeks. That agreement included compensation increases, but more importantly, it included a commitment from this body to improve our process. I remain hopeful that although that agreement ultimately was not what came forward tonight, it's not what we're about to see, that commitment from my colleagues to improve the process remains, because our process thus far, in my opinion, leaves much to be desired. I value the FOP members of our team and the work they do to protect our community. I don't think anybody up here would suggest otherwise. And I recognize both management rights and employee rights are important and worth memorializing in contract. But I do not agree with the compensation plan before us this evening in that regard either. I would like to offer wage increases, perhaps even beyond those offered this evening, if there could be a safety clause that provides our residents with protections against indiscretion in Springfield or economic decline, similar to the protections rightfully provided to our employees in these contracts. We seem, from where I sit, to be unwilling or unable to learn from our own history or recognize the current situations with the state and federal government as opportunities to learn from our mistakes. These contracts are, in my opinion, just that. They're mistakes, incognizant of our past. I've been consistent, albeit in the minority, consistently, but randomly determining compensation adjustments without clear connections to performance metrics or binding our residents to future cost increases without the protections I just mentioned, when 2/3 or more of our total revenue is completely beyond our control, just seems foolish to me. So thus, before I vote this evening, let me make it clear. I'm not voting against any one of our village team members, nor should my vote be interpreted as any kind of critique or criticism of their performance. They have done their jobs well and are right to request increases. But rather, my dissension is a vote for a better process. I'd suggest it's a vote for equity and consistency in our evaluation methods. It's a vote for security for our residents and a vote for more security for our employees. We have a recent history to reflect upon where those were both in jeopardy. And it's a vote, in my opinion, for a more equitable, predictable, and sustainable compensation plans for all of our employees. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Schnell?
I just want to make a comment on the FOP contract, since that's what we'll be voting on first. I want to thank staff and also the FOP for the amount of time and energies that went into the bargaining process. I know it was difficult on both sides, but I think there was a good amount of compromise on both sides, and both entities bargained in good faith. Our management rights were protected and our employee rights are protected, and I think that's very important. Plus the fact that our FOP, our police officers, got what is a reasonable raise, not an outrageous raise, but a reasonable raise. And I believe that we need to, within the collective bargaining process, reward our employees under what is presently the law. And other than that, I think it's very hard to do anything else. So I just want to thank everybody that was involved, because we have a contract I think that everybody can live with and rewards good performance and while protecting our rights as management. So thank you to everyone involved. And I will be voting for this because I think it's a good contract and I think it's good for the village.
Thank you, Commissioner. Other questions or comments from the council on this item, 7B as in boy? Hearing none, roll, I'll just add something very quickly before I call for the roll. And this is going to permeate some of the other items too. I have shared in Commissioner Barnett's frustration with the framework within which some of these compensation, whether they be collective or otherwise, are made. Yes, there are limitations and other challenges with the framework within which we must operate. In the collective bargaining sphere, anybody who knows anything about this knows that we operate within a box that is not of our own making. There are laws, there are rules, many different things we do not control that put us in that box. I think within the framework in which we operate, our team, working with our FOP representatives, did a fantastic job of reaching what is a fair and appropriate result. I don't disagree that the framework itself may be in great need of change and disrepair, but it is not within the power of this council to change that framework. Yes, things can be done, but candidly, they may not be realistic. And while I applaud people who take stands on issues and call for change, it's sort of like my asking for the weather to be changed. I don't have the power to do that. What I can do is grow the best crops I can within the environment that I'm given and the rain that I'm dealing with. And I think that, again, going back to the box analogy, this contract, like some of the others that have come before us in terms of collective bargaining, is a fair and appropriate result that was done at arm's length by very competent people on both sides of the bargaining table. I'll go back and say it again. Whether the framework deserves to be changed or altered or thrown out altogether is another and a very fair question. So I will be voting in support of the collective bargaining matter as well. And with that, I will ask for a roll call.
Commissioner Newstead?
Aye.
Commissioner Rankin?
Aye.
Commissioner Barnett?
Nay.
Commissioner Durkin?
Aye.
Commissioner Waldeck?
Aye.
Commissioner Schnell?
Aye.
Mayor Tully?
Aye, the matter passes 6-1. That brings us to item 7C as in Charlie. Do I have a motion to authorize an amended employment agreement raise and bonus for the village manager?
Mayor, I move to authorize an amended employment agreement, a 2% raise, and a $10,000 bonus for performance in 2012 for village manager David Fieldman.
Second?
Questions or comments from members of the audience on this item? Questions or comments from members of the village council? Commissioner Newstead.
It's pretty simple. Our village excelled last year, and I'm expecting nothing but the same in 2013. 2012 was a remarkable year for our village, following along with our long-range financial plan, our strategic planning, and our budget process. We positioned ourselves with the leadership of Dave and Enza and the rest of the staff team from the top down to, I think the number was, let me click here and see, total community savings of $7.5 million by all the actions and things that were undertaken last year. That's in 1 year alone. These compensation agreements are, again, fair and appropriate for the village manager and the village attorney, which will be our next item. And I appreciate the hard work that's been done by our team, our entire team, in 2012, and look forward to a great 2013. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Rankin.
I'd like to echo what Commissioner Newstead is saying. The village manager and the village attorney do an outstanding job leading our village, as evidenced by their glowing performance reviews that we all provided input on. Their hard work in 2012 deserves to be recognized and rewarded. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Schnell.
I want to echo what my two colleagues said, but I also want to say Dave has established a standard in this organization. He is the leader, but he has a team under him that I don't think any other community in DuPage County has. But it's because of Dave and his team and the benchmarks that he has set within that team that we are lucky enough to have a village that, one, came out of a financial situation in much better shape than any other community. And we are also now a community that other communities are looking towards to see what we're doing that is innovative and how do you do things a little bit different and still provide services to your residents. So, when you have that kind of a team, when you have that kind of a review, it's very difficult not to reward the employees that are involved. So I think it is appropriate. It's not outlandish. It's just rewarding extremely good performance and a rating that was outstanding almost all the way across the board.
Thank you, Commissioner. Other questions or comments? Commissioner Durkin?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I support Dave Fieldman. I will support Dave Field tomorrow, and I will continue to do so, but I cannot support this recommendation before us. We've had long discussions on coming up with a dollar amount. We've had a number of meetings talking about what is the appropriate dollar, what were the accomplishments, and the accomplishments were many. And Dave has done an outstanding job. I, along with Commissioner Barnett, not echoing everything he had stated earlier, I have an issue with the process itself. There is no way that any of us can sit up here and defend to the public why we are giving and chosen a $10,000 bonus when an individual had saved over $7-point-some million to this community. I think Mr. Fieldman is being shortchanged on the savings he provided this community. I adamantly want to see a defined plan like we have in the private world. And I know that you can do a defined plan at the local level, at the municipal level, at the village manager's level, which then can branch down, in my humble opinion, down to the other department heads within this organization, where we could eventually get 100% buy-in of all of our employees. I know that because I've been doing a lot of research. But unfortunately, when we hit the number 4 of what we want to see, it stopped. So I will be proposing under new business later on, not tonight, but down the road, and how we go about doing that. Because I truly believe that what Mr. Fieldman has done for this community over the years he's been here, what he has done with our Economic Development Corporation, we are shortchanging the man with a $10,000 bonus. There's no way we can defend or define or explain why it's $10,000 and not 5 or 17 or 25,000. So nothing against Mr. Fieldman or Dave. It's just that I don't think we're being fair, and will not be supporting this.
Thank you, Commissioner. I'll just add that both with respect to the proposed compensation changes for the village manager and the village attorney, plain and simple, these are both completely and entirely performance-driven. They earn them, and I'm happy to share the numbers with anyone who cares to understand them in terms of the value to this community that our 2 key employees have achieved. And as I think someone touched upon, it not numbers in the thousands, the hundred thousands, it numbers in the millions of dollars. Under private compensation, we wouldn't be able to afford to pay them the bonus that they probably earned if we were in the private sector. So I hear what Commissioner Durkin is saying. I think that the challenge is, again, one of disagreeing with the framework and the metrics. My opinion, the metrics that were in place, this is, again, a fair and appropriate outcome for both the village manager and the village attorney. What Commissioner Durkin is probably right, it's probably not fair enough, but that's for another time. But I embrace and have committed to revisit what the framework is, what are the metrics, and if they can be better defined and more, manage expectations better, there may be a way to do that. But again, I'm looking at the framework that was in place and it was utilized, and this outcome using that framework, those metrics, is both fair and entirely appropriate. Plain and simple, it's performance-driven, period. So I will be supporting both of them, but we only have one before us right now. So I'll ask for a roll call on that item.
Commissioner Rankin?
Aye.
Commissioner Schnell?
Aye.
Commissioner Barnett?
Nay.
Commissioner Neustadt?
Aye.
Commissioner Durkin?
No.
Commissioner Waldeck?
Nay.
Mayor Tully?
Aye. Matter passes 4-3. Brings us to item 7D, as in David. Do I have a motion to authorize an amended employment agreement and raise for the village attorney?
Mayor Tully, I move to authorize an amended employment agreement and a 3% raise for the village attorney Enzo Petrarca.
Second.
Any questions or comments from members of the audience with respect to this item? Questions or comments from the village council? Commissioner Neustadt.
Thank you, Mayor. Our organization works as a team, and we often talk about the team and the organization as a whole and as a family. Our village attorney, our village manager, our deputy manager, and pretty much every staff member have bought into that team approach in this organization. As the mayor alluded to earlier, this is a performance-based increase for both the manager and the attorney. I think it's hard for us to grasp, because we're only here on Tuesday nights, what really happens in the attorney's office. I think that so much happens in and out of her door that we probably will never even really know what goes on down there. But it's important to know that the village attorney is there not only for the staff members here at the village, but for the 7 of us as well. I know that I use the attorney as a sounding board for ideas and for issues that come up on Tuesday nights and beyond. And the open door policy that she has for not only the council members, but for the rest of the staff too, is remarkable. As the mayor and Commissioner Rankin said, this was based on a performance evaluation that we all did and completed, and the remarks were great. So I appreciate the hard work from the village attorney, the whole organization, the team, the management team. And again, this is a completely fair and appropriate, adjustment. I think the other thing I want to touch on quickly is one of our jobs is to try to budget for these changes and adjustments with salary, not only for our management team, but for the rest of the staff. And we've done that. We've managed to budget for these increases. And I think when we look at our overall budget, we only really look at it at the end of each year, but we have to keep in mind the compaction and the variances between our management team and the rest of the staff. I think that's very important to keep a close eye on to make sure that we're all appropriately being compensated in our village. And I think this helps to go a long way to do that. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Commissioner. Other questions or comments from members of the council? Commissioner Rankin?
I just wanted to add one note, and that I do agree with Commissioner Barnett and Commissioner Durkin in the fact that I would like us to talk again about how we can change the process for the future so that we can all feel more comfortable with how that proceeds. So thanks for mentioning that. I just wanted to agree with that because I think we all were in agreement that in the future we need to have some more concrete metrics, I guess it would be the word, to evaluate them.
Okay.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Schnell?
Just in line with that, I think anytime you can make the evaluation process more streamlined and more accountable, so that people actually understand exactly what's going on and why, the better off we can be. So as we look towards the future, I think it would be good. It's always good to reevaluate what you do and how you do it. And the whole evaluation process really has not been evaluated by the council, at least, for several years. So it's always good to take a fresh look at things and see if we're doing it right, what we're doing right, what we could do better, and then move from there. So I don't disagree with my colleagues. I just have a problem with the fact that we're working within the process that we have now, and the evaluation that we did, both of them came out as outstanding. So you really need to reward someone who has been evaluated as outstanding.
Thank you, Commissioner. Other questions or comments from the council? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Schnell?
Aye.
Commissioner Newstead?
Aye.
Commissioner Rankin?
Aye.
Commissioner Barnett?
Nay.
Commissioner Durkin?
No.
Commissioner Waldeck?
Aye.
Mayor Tully?
Aye. That matter passes 5-2. That brings us to the end of our active agenda and to item 8 on our agenda, which is our first reading or our workshop agenda, when we entertain items for discussion only and action at a potential future point in time, or potential action at a future point in time. As is customary, we turn the meeting over for presentation by village staff, led by none other than Village Manager David Fieldman.
Thank you, Mayor Tully. We have 4 items on tonight's first reading agenda. The first 3 items relate to investment in our street system and specific improvements on Washington Street and the streets in Concord Square Unit 2. And here to present background information on these items is our Public Works Director, Nan Newland.
Good evening.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. A motion is requested to award a contract for the Washington Street improvements to John Neary Construction Company of Addison, Illinois, in the amount of $941,849.15. A second and related motion is to authorize an intergovernmental agreement between the village and the Downers Grove Sanitary District for the construction of sanitary sewer improvements, which are sanitary manhole reconstructions within the project limits. This project includes the replacement of approximately 1,500 feet of water main, 900 feet of storm sewers, curb and gutter replacement, road resurfacing, asphalt patching, some sidewalk replacement, as well as curb extensions at the intersections with crosswalk improvements. The alternate bid item includes replacement of the 5 existing sanitary manholes, and the cost of which will be reimbursed by the sanitary district through the intergovernmental agreement. Coordinating the work of these two projects together minimizes disruption to motorists, eliminates future pavement damage, and provides the district with competitively bid pricing for this work. We advertised and received 14 bids, and John Neary Construction Company was the low bidder. They satisfactorily completed the 2012 Water Main Improvement Contract A for the village, as well as various projects for other local municipalities, including water main improvements for the village of Villa Park and the city of Prospect Heights. Staff recommends award of the contract to include the alternate bid to John Neary Construction Company, and I'd be happy to answer any questions you have.
Thank you for the presentation. Are there any questions or comments from members of the audience with respect to this item? Yes, there are. Good evening.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is Tom LeCren, 545 Chicago Avenue. First thing I want to say is about time that this project got off the ground. How many, I don't know, we can figure out how many years has gone by since this was supposed to have been done. I wonder, and it's probably not possible, but to learn how much more this is costing us because we delayed so long. The other consideration I want to have is a discussion of, for transparency purposes, on the actual cost of this contract. This is what we're going to pay John Neary Construction Company, but what is the real cost to us? Because I believe, well, is it a true or false that the money that we are going to expend on this is all borrowed? It's part of the...
Your question is, what is the source of the funds that will pay for the contract?
Are they...
For the Washington Street improvements, this money is not borrowed. This is part of our capital projects fund and water fund. So we'll double check to make sure, but the major component of this is the street resurfacing, which is not borrowed money. It's the street reconstructions. The agenda item coming up, item C, will be a different answer to that question, but we'll get a breakdown of
what about the
sources
money
are.
from the stormwater fund? That's got to be borrowed.
$150,000 is from the stormwater fund.
But that's got to be borrowed money.
Not necessarily, but we can get that breakdown as to whether any
Right,
portion of
because
that comes from the
if it's
stormwater
borrowed
bond
money, it's
proceeds.
costing us more than what you see there. The interest on that money has to be paid. That's a factor in the cost, overall cost of that given project.
We can get that information for you, Tom.
Thank you.
Understood, although those costs are there whether we do this project or not, once the funds are borrowed. But if you want to attribute a portion to this, I understand your question. Any other questions from the audience with respect to this item? Hearing none. Commissioner Schnell.
Just a comment, and it's actually in the questions, but I just want to state it publicly. I have no problem. I agree this is a project that is long in coming. My concern is, however, with the fact that it's connected to a railroad crossing and the safety issues associated with that railroad crossing. We heard at a council meeting, people get very frustrated, gates are down, they want to go around, all these wonderful things. I guess I want some sort of assurance, or I want some sort of a plan, and I know there will be a plan, but that Washington Street will flow as well as can be expected, and so that people are not backed up at the tracks, and that people, particularly going north to south, are not overly frustrated about trying to get over and then trying to figure out, do I go left, do I go right? So you have people backed up on the tracks. All those safety issues that I'm really, really concerned about. The project itself will flow, and the contractor, I'm sure, will do a good job. It's making sure that it's staged properly so that people can flow over the tracks, make a left or a right, depending on whether or not Washington Street is backed up or blocked. But so that there's a certain amount of built-in safety to whatever the plan is that's put in place to get traffic moving smoothly.
What would probably make sense is I'm sure there's a plan, and there will be a plan, and that we just had it presented to us.
And there is.
The public understands what it is.
Yeah, I mean, we need to do some education, I guess, is the bottom line. That when we start doing the project, that people who go over the tracks know exactly what's happening, when, and how, so that there are no backups, no one winds up on the tracks and a train is coming. I mean, that's to me, is like the nightmare in all of this. And, because coming to Village Hall, I go across the tracks and go to make a left, and invariably you have people coming, from Washington Street who go right in front of you, you slam on your brakes, and you're on the tracks. And, obviously not for long, but it's scary. And that's my concern in all of this. And I know in the answers you said that there would be a plan. I guess the bottom line is, can we somehow make sure we publicize that plan so that there's signage, people know what's going on, so that we eliminate tragedies that probably would not happen but could happen? That's.
Safety, of course, is our
And I
first
understand,
goal, and we agree with the sentiment expressed here tonight by the council, so we will publish that plan as it becomes available, and we will work to educate the public, and we're confident. I know that, as you can glean from the answers, that the safety portion of the traffic management plan was discussed in detail, and we will share that with everybody.
Okay. I think it's just letting people know what it is and how it operates, and, the more we can, like everything else we do, the more you can educate the public as to what's going on and how things may happen, the better off we're going to be. Thanks.
We actually took the step of putting a penalty in for lane closures for the contractor. So they have a penalty if they were to close a lane. So that's how we're looking to keep both lanes of traffic open at all times.
Okay.
So it was very carefully thought through. We had a mandatory pre-construction meeting, so they all knew the kind of project that they were getting involved in and how important this was from the beginning.
And they know that even though lanes may not be blocked, that the free flow of traffic is of utmost importance, so that, again, it's not backed up towards the tracks.
Yes.
That's just, it's a concern. So, and I'm sure it's a concern of yours, too.
It's
I'm not
a
saying
big
it
concern
isn't.
of ours. Unfortunately, we have 4 lanes of road there to work with, so we have 2 lanes that we can dedicate to construction, and 2 lanes we can dedicate to keeping traffic moving.
So we're going to eliminate parking on?
Yes.
Okay, okay. That'll help a lot, too.
And we've compressed the schedule to try to get this done in quick time, because we know it's going to be difficult in the downtown. So everybody's fully aware of the type of project, the short duration time, the construction, and the staging plan that's required.
Okay. I have total faith in staff. It's more, we need to educate the public as to what we're doing.
Will do.
We
Thanks.
can use all our tools
I'm
to
sure.
educate the public outside of the station. With respect to the train station, it might not be a bad idea in the morning to have something up and displaying this, because you've got a captive audience, and those are typically the people who are the ones
Yeah.
most likely to be involved in that crossing. And Commissioner Neustadt would say we should even put a QRC code up somewhere so people can use their phones and get more information about what they can expect at the Washington Street crossing.
I know somebody that's on that platform a lot that might have a tablet that could just stand there and show everybody.
If you want to give me a sandwich board sign, I'll walk up and down the platform and educate to my heart's content.
We'll take your measurements tonight.
I'll do the 740.
Go.
Any other questions from council with respect to this item? Thank you.
Item C is a motion requesting award of a contract for the Concord Square Unit 2 roadway improvements to A-Lamp Concrete Contractors of Schaumburg in the amount of $3,020,000.19. This project includes the reconstruction of streets, replacement of storm sewers and streetlights, and the installation of traffic calming measures within the Concord Square Unit 2 subdivision, including Bunker Hill Circle, Concord Drive, Camden Road, Camden Court, Camden Place, Ticonderoga Road, Elmench Place, Monmouth Place, and Valley Forge Place. The subdivision was built in the late 1970s with a Pozzolanic base course similar to other subdivision reconstructions we did last year. And this has resulted in a very poor performance history and deteriorating and failing pavement. Reconstruction of the streets in the subdivision will provide a better performing pavement and reduce long-term maintenance costs for the village. A call for bids was issued in accordance with the village's purchasing policy. We received 4 bids, and A-Lamp Concrete Contractors was the low bidder. They most recently completed the Valley View subdivision reconstruction and water main replacement project in 2012 for the village, as well as comparable projects for various local municipalities, including Bartlett, Skokie, and Lombard. Staff recommends award of the bid to A-Lamp Concrete Contractors, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Any questions from the audience with respect to this proposed contract award?
Just a quick note, the funding source for this project is the portion of the $25 million bond issuance for streets that we did last year as pursuant to the long-range financial plan.
This is being funded as designed.
Yes.
Any questions on this item from members of the audience? Questions from members of the council? I'll just add that not only is it part of that plan, but this is part of our continued commitment to infrastructure improvement in the village. This is a $3 million contract in the major street reconstruction. And this is, we saw a lot last year. We featured a lot of them in our year-end report. And here we are already in early construction season in 2013, and we're going to see more of these projects as we move forward. This is where we put our money, where our mouths are, so to speak, in terms of infrastructure improvement. So looking forward to it. Other questions or comments on this item? Thanks. That brings us to, thank you very much, Nan. That brings us to 8D as in David.
Which is consideration of a resolution approving a final plat of subdivision with exceptions for the property located at 4729 Woodward Avenue. Our Community Development Director, Tom Dabereiner, is here with background information on this petition.
Good evening.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. We are looking for approval of this item on next week's consent agenda as a resolution. Here is a location map. That shows 4729 Woodward Avenue, the 180-foot wide property, which already consists of 2 buildable lots, but contains 1 house at this point, is shown here in this aerial. The proposed re-subdivision of this property would include, there it is, would include 2 75-foot wide lots, one facing Woodward Avenue, which is to the left. This is Woodward, and here is Prairie. So there's the 75-foot lot to the left, to the Woodward side, and then another 75-foot wide lot facing Prairie Avenue. It would also include a new, although it's existing, 105-foot lot at the corner of Woodward and Prairie Avenues. The petitioner is proposing to modify the existing home on the property, and then the 2 new lots would have a new single, would each have a new single-family home on them. The 3 lots will meet or exceed the minimum lot dimension requirements for the R3 zoning district, and that's where this sits, as well as the subdivision ordinance for section 20.301. There are a couple exceptions being requested. The petitioner is requesting 2 exceptions, one related to right-of-way width and the other related to right-of-way improvements. We'll talk first about the right-of-way width item. The subdivision ordinance requires dedication of land to accommodate a 70-foot wide right-of-way for both Woodward and Prairie Avenues. However, both Woodward Avenue and Prairie Avenue are already established roadways with a consistent 66-foot wide right-of-way. The exception notes that the exception request notes that widening the rights of way, too many W's and R's in this. I'm not going to get through this, I'm telling you. The exception request notes that widening the rights of way only along the subject property would be inconsistent and really offer no benefit. And furthermore, the village has no plans to widen either right-of-way. The second exception that's being requested has to do with right-of-way improvements, as noted. Woodward Avenue does not have curb and gutter today, and the village doesn't have any plans to add this in the foreseeable future. It's certainly not in any capital improvement plans today. And piecemeal installation of the curb and gutter improvements at this time could lead to improvements that are inconsistent with the final village plans if and when they are ever developed, because those would be based on a study that would be done in advance of any of that work. So it's highly likely that it would have to be changed, ripped out, and replaced at that point anyway. So those are the exceptions. Let's talk about what the petitioner will be doing. First of all, there are a number of stormwater improvements. There will be improvements to the existing stormwater infrastructure along Woodward Avenue with a new catch basin and a new 6-inch storm sewer line to accommodate the one new home on Woodward Avenue. The petitioner will also be paying a fee in lieu of installation of 2 parkway trees. It's about $500. That's not about, it is $500 for each new tree. And then those trees would be installed after construction by the village, after construction of the lots. The petitioner is also required to pay park and school donations for 1 new single-family home. Again, I mentioned that there are 2 existing lots today, so we're only really talking about the net addition of 1 with this subdivision. So it seems we got to follow along, got to follow the bouncing ball on this one, because otherwise it could get a little confusing. But there are other public infrastructure improvements already in place, such as sidewalk. Typically, we would ask for that kind of thing, but it's already in place. The proposed 3-lot subdivision is consistent with the comprehensive plan, the diversity of housing, dwelling unit types, and densities. It meets the minimum lot dimension standards of Section 28.1103, subsection C, and 28.1104C of the zoning ordinance, as well as Sections 20.101 and 20.301B of the subdivision ordinance. The Plan Commission considered this petition at their February 4th, 2013 meeting. For those of you following along, you can tell exactly when we last did a report like this, because it's incorrect by about a year in the report, so I apologize for that. But there were several residents that expressed concerns about increased stormwater runoff and traffic. If I can just comment on those, the stormwater requirements will all be met. The subdivision, any new development will meet the subdivision, or will meet the stormwater ordinance. And in addition, when we looked at traffic, each single-family home will, on average, add 1 peak hour trip to the road network, local road network, on weekdays, weekday peak hours. There is plenty of capacity to accommodate that, so we don't believe that there are that those issues should be of any concern. Plan Commission agreed. Plan Commission did comment that the proposed subdivision is consistent with the existing neighborhood and found that the request meets the requirements of the subdivision and zoning ordinances, and the requested exceptions also meet the standards for approval per Section 20.602 of the subdivision ordinance. And they unanimously recommended approval of all of these items, and staff concurs. Be happy to try to answer any questions as long as there are no R's and W's involved in the same sentence.
Thank you, you Westley Webbit. Any questions on this item from members of the audience? Questions or comments from members of the village council? Commissioner Schnell?
Just one question. There is an additional catch basin that's going in. I think I read someplace.
Yes.
Yes. So
Yeah,
that
correct.
should help address some of the concerns of the residents as far as.
Correct, and that would be required to address additional needs placed on the system by the additional house.
Right, but I guess what I'm saying is to relieve some of the fears, if you want to call that, of the people in the area, that is being done to do.
Yes, absolutely, correct.
That's it.
Thank you. Commissioner Waldeck.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a couple of comments, no real questions. First of all, the fact that we have it written down that it's 70 feet and it's going to be 66 feet and they have to go for a variance. We just approved the rewrite of the ordinances and subdivision, and I hope somewhere along the line that we would be able to accommodate these type situations without requiring a council approval. If we can standardize that. And secondly, I ask the council, since I probably will not be here when you start all this, but when you do your strategic planning and that, there were a lot of questions regarding future curb and gutter type questions, and I think those are issues that that the council should look at in the future as to whether, whether you're going to collect money for them in advance, or how these types of situations should be handled. Instead of a case-by-case basis, because if you have a different council, one council will say, let's let it go, and the next one will come in, well, let's take money in lieu of, and I think that needs to be, if we can nail if you guys can nail that down in the future, that'd be great. So that's all I have. Thanks.
I'll pick up on Commissioner Waldek's comment. The issue of curb and gutter throughout our community, I agree with you, it's a huge one. And if it's going to be addressed at all, it needs to be done in a comprehensive fashion because there's an awful lot of streets that lack curb and gutter. And from firsthand experience, just looking at putting it in, and one 2-block stretch is enormously expensive, which is why it's such a big issue. Not that its size means you can't ever tackle it, but I agree, the only appropriate and fair way to do that would be on a community-wide basis, something akin to the sidewalk program, because trying to do it piecemeal is way too expensive. It just would be completely inequitable and unsupportable and unsustainable. Whether something of that magnitude could be comprehensively dealt with, I don't want to try to guess at as I sit here right now, but I agree with you 100%. We get asked that question all the time, by whether there's new construction or not. When a sidewalk goes in, when anything happens, when are we getting curb and gutter? And unfortunately, the answer is very similar to when are we burying the overhead power lines on Ogden Avenue? I'd love to do that tomorrow, but it's extremely expensive, which is the problem. And right now, as mentioned, we're focusing on things like addressing stormwater and sidewalk and street problems and issues that are desperately in need of it, such as the $3 million project we talked about tonight, and many others. But I would like to be sitting here someday when we actually are talking about a comprehensive capital program to address curb and gutter throughout the community. But I think right now it's probably beyond our grasp. But I agree with you 100%. Commissioner Schnell.
Just in line with that, and the manager and I talked about this, similar to the sidewalk program, if we do get to the point where we have a comprehensive curb and gutter program, we need to have, if someone asks for the ability not to put curb and gutter in, we need to somehow get the monies that would cost and put it into a pot, similar to what we do with the sidewalk fund. So if a developer doesn't want to put a sidewalk in, or it isn't appropriate, or it is just a little piece, they pay monies into a fund in lieu of those fees. And I think similarly, if we have a comprehensive curb and gutter policy, then we need to look at having some sort of a fund where if a developer comes in the street that they're developing and putting a house on, at that point in time does not have curb and gutter, they need to pay fees in lieu of putting curb and gutter in. So again, I think it's all part of looking at the policy and how we would go about administering it. But we need to, if in the future it is something that we decide needs to be done, we need to recapture those monies from a developer who is not putting it in at a particular time.
Well, right. I think we have to have the policy first. Because
no, I understand
the policy, there's no reason for the fee in lieu of.
Right. No, and I understand that, which is why when I asked that question to the manager, he said exactly that. But anything that we eventually look at has to be comprehensive and has to include all of it together.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So if we get $2 billion from the federal government someday, we can look at curb and gutter throughout the entire community.
Maybe the state. I thought I'd put a joke in there.
They don't have 2 nickels around. I don't know about that. Other questions or comments? Thank you, Mr. Dave Bronner.
That ends our first reading tonight, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That brings us to item 9, the mayor's report. I will just point something out very quickly. As everyone I'm sure knows from prior reports, we will be welcoming a new world headquarters to Downers Grove pretty soon, actually in April next month. Grundfos, which is one of the largest manufacturers of water pumps in the entire world, is moving its North American headquarters to the Esplanade building at 2001 Butterfield Road. And I had the pleasure, along with President and CEO of our Economic Development Corporation, Michael Casa, to have a conference call with the President and CEO, Mr. Hansen, of Grundfos. And, it was an interesting conversation because he's Danish, and I apologized for his accent. And I said, "What accent?" And later on in the conversation, he said, "Well, actually, my wife is from the United States. She's from upstate Wisconsin." I said, "Now there's an accent." Had a very nice conversation. What I wanted to share with the rest of the council and community and staff is that he was highly complimentary of Downers Grove in why they chose Downers Grove for their North American headquarters, given that they have facilities in Aurora, in California, all around the country, and in many places around the world. It's the proximity to, what he said is, where water is at is where you're at. And great amenities, great access to travel, the airports, the expressways and whatnot. He was knowledgeable of the Forbes award that we received in terms of the 8th most friendliest place to live in the United States, which I attribute to the fact that Mr. Kozlowski and Mr. Casa have made sure that every single living person on the planet is aware of that. He was aware of it, is looking forward to their groundbreaking, I believe it's on April 16th. Rumor has it the governor will be attending that groundbreaking, although he hesitated to say it's not really a groundbreaking since it will be on the 7th floor of an office building, so it's more of a floor breaking.
Fun to see.
And they will have much more coming down the road, but they want to get established and up and running. But they will be bringing a number of employees to our community, and also being one of the world's leading manufacturers of these water pumps, both for drinking water and wastewater. They are major presences at conferences at the McCormick Place downtown, and will be making sure to bring folks out here to visit their offices as part of those conferences. So I see nothing but good things coming out of this. It was a very good conversation. We're looking forward to welcoming them when they arrive. And the one thing I did learn is you think of water pumps and you think of these big pipes with lots of bolts and things like that. And he said, actually, we're a technology company because it's so sophisticated now. Pump technology is so sophisticated that we are more of a software and electronics company than we are nuts and bolts. So I'll be looking forward to learning more about them. So I just wanted to share that with everyone. And he was very complimentary of staff and everything that they've been going through in terms of getting them set up here in Downers Grove. So we look forward to that. That ends my report. That brings us to the manager's report, item 10.
Just one report tonight, Mayor. A couple weeks ago, a resident asked a question about salt usage, and we had a brief discussion about salt usage as it relates to our snow policy. I thought we'd finish that story tonight with some good news and a little explanation of how we use salt in our community, and I've asked Nan Newland to present that information to the community tonight.
Thank you. Welcome back.
Thank you. I'm hoping this is the wind down of winter now. The primary goal of the village's snow removal and ice control program is to maintain safe travel routes within the village and to restore mobility for the public as well as our emergency responders following winter precipitation. We maintain 167 centerline miles of streets, 333 cul-de-sacs and dead ends, sidewalks, parking lots, the downtown area, and 3 commuter rail stations for all of our commuters. Our policy states, which is on our website, the complete policy, it can be found on our website for snow and ice control, that our target level of service is bare pavement, and that the maximum time frame we achieve bare pavement following a winter storm varies between 12 and 18 hours, depending on the average level of traffic on those streets. Each storm is different based on the rate of accumulation, moisture content, pavement temperatures, wind, time of day, and duration of the event. Some of our street managers are quite the meteorologists. For events with less than 2 inches of accumulation, we rely on salt to dry our pavements. We refer to those as salting events. And for events with more than 2 inches of accumulation, we typically plow and then salt. Over the past few years, we've achieved efficiency improvements in our ability to manage winter precipitation through the use of anti-icers and better and more sophisticated forecasting tools. The addition of anti-icers lowers the rock salt's effective temperature range, making it more effective in those really cold temperatures, which allows us to use less of it during those really cold winter events. It also makes the rock salt less corrosive to concrete and to cars and other pieces of equipment, and it reduces the scatter, so when it comes off the spreader, it doesn't bounce around on the pavement and leave the pavement as much. It stays on the pavement where we need it to be working. The application itself is a mechanical process, and the calibration of salt spreaders has become computerized and better, but it still can be seen by some residents as an uneven distribution in some areas, especially where trucks slow down or where they turn or where they make other maneuvers to cover all the pavement. That's when you see that, you may see some accumulation on the pavement. Just to give you a little update on what we've seen so far this year, We've had approximately 30 inches of snow in 30 events, which is about typical for our area and location and our history. Each winter, we budget for the amount of salt we need for an average season, which is about 3,400 tons of salt. If you look at it over a long historical period, that's about 70% less than we had used before we started using anti-icers. That's where we see that efficiency in the use of adding anti-icers to the salt. So far this winter, we've purchased 3,000 tons, and we've used about 4,000 tons. Slightly more than we would expect to see for a very average winter, but we've also had some more ice this winter than a lot of our average winters. The complete snow removal and ice control policy can be found on the website for anybody that cares to look at it in more detail, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much for the presentation. I hope that is the tail end of winter. Questions from the audience with respect to the presentation? Questions of the council? Commissioner Durkin?
Yeah, I just want to thank Dan for implementing or having staff implement or your leadership during snowstorms implement the tandem plowing. I know that it was something that was kind of being trialed and aired while I did my ride-along last year. And I saw it this past, well, when we didn't have council last Tuesday, a matter of fact. It was nice because they came through and they widened the street quite a bit where you could actually get 2 cars on the street, and they were in and out, and then came back late in the hours, early morning hours, and really cleaned everything up. So I'm glad that it being innovative and really making it accessible to all the, not only the residents, but any guests or visitors that are traveling our streets. So thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Waldeck.
Just a comment. Well, if I heard you right, it was 30 events?
Yes.
And gee, I only wound up pulling out my snowblower about 4, so there's been a lot going on. And I think the comment last time, you know, why are the streets so white? Why are we using all this salt? And how long does it take if you're just salting? About how long does it take to do all the streets?
I think it would take us about 4 hours to get, if we had all our pieces of equipment out.
So basically, you have to predict the weather several hours in advance, determine it, let's say 6 o'clock at night or something like that, that you got, that evening it's going to drop, the temperatures are going to drop, and you're going to have to do all, you know, either drop salt or not drop salt, so you need a 4 hour in advance so that when people go, the stop signs, they aren't sliding all over the place because you didn't come by at night. You know, a lot of times in the evening, it's with the winter we've had, I think it's been over 30 degrees, and then all of a sudden at night drops down. And that's really what you kind of have to plan for, even though in the morning it may warm up back to 38 or whatever it is. It's just been that kind of winter, so I think noticing that it's, we've had 30 events, and I've only noticed about 4 on my snow blowers, so. It's been a weird winter, and
That's where the more sophisticated forecasts help as well,
Yeah.
because we not only look at air temperature, we look at pavement temperature, and we're kind of looking at those curves. So you got the curve of the pavement temperature changing and the air temperature changing. We look at 3 different models and 3 different forecasters, so we have a lot of information that helps us get people in at the right times and put down the right product, depending on what we foresee is going to happen.
and then you get the rain that kind of washes whatever you've done away too, right? Pretty much.
Yeah, but I think the
It's
biggest
been tough.
secret that Nan's not telling you about is that really cool LED computerized weather system you have in your office in Public Works break room. I mean, that's just unbelievable that we've all been able to see. But I mean, I think that's the cat's meow, and that's really is what's been critical for our successes with the salting or even the snow plowing. I mean,
I'll just jump in and echo, you know, there's no better example of the staff work that was talked about earlier, innovation, a commitment to environmental sustainability, a commitment to fiscal and financial sustainability, the use of technology to do that. We really are a poster child for how to improve your snow and ice control operations. We've saved money, we've lessened the impact on the environment, we've improved the service level, and we've used innovative technologies to do so. So hats off to Nana and her team and everybody that supports them. We're really proud of this, and we've actually gone to some events where people have asked us, what's the secret in Downers Grove? and the secret starts with good staff and a council that allows you to buy some of those tools that we turn into savings for the community. So thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Commissioner Neustadt.
Since we're talking about cool tools, the cool tool that I like is the snow manager that night's got a pickup truck with a pavement sensor on it that can sense the pavement temperature. So we don't only have, weather information coming in, but we have a truck going around driving and getting actual data from our streets in Downers Grove. And that's really how we can tell what our streets are doing. And they go, all over town, figure it out, and then deploy. So it is cool to have those interesting tools to help us get our jobs done better. Thank you.
Encourage everybody to take a look at that website. It is a science and an art, and it's captured well in that snow policy. And with that, that ends our manager's report tonight, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Dan. I appreciate that report as well. Brings us to item 11, Attorney's Report.
I don't have a report tonight.
Thank you, Madam Attorney. Brings us to item 12, Councilmember Reports and New Business. As is customary, we'll begin with any new business from any of my colleagues. Any items of new business? No items of new business. We'll go to Councilmember Reports. Commissioner Barnett.
I have nothing, Mayor.
Thank you. Commissioner Durkin.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I just want to point out a couple of things. First of all, do we have any idea, calendar date, Nan, when we will see the sidewalk replacement coming before council? If you don't know, we can get that information later. I know it's something Commissioner Schnell and I always ask about, so we can get the sidewalks done during summer. And I was just wondering about that. But what I really wanted to bring up was, in the governor's speech earlier in the week, the governor had talked about potential changes to the local government distribution fund. And that fund is something that could have a pretty good impact if it's changed on our village. So I had, during my weekly conversation with the manager, I had asked the manager about all of the expenses that we saw tonight, that we discussed or approved, and if they were totally necessary, not knowing what the governor and the state are going to do with the local tax. There's talk it could be $1 million, or it could be the whole item, which is over $4 million, and that would be a big hit on our budget and our finances. And in the staff responses to council questions, I highlight this, Mayor, only because there was a lot of time by staff put into this, really explaining the position that we are in today if the governor were to pull a hat trick out and take our money that rightfully is ours. So any residents that have the same concern that I had, I'd ask you to go to the website and you will see what we have done, what staff has done to position ourselves in case there was a change to that. So I just want to thank staff for putting this together on such short notice. About the same amount of notice they had was we all had when we heard it in the governor's speech. So I know they're scrambling, their lack of leadership there, and they're not innovative like we are, but we have to be able to defend ourselves and make sure that we exist and we can plow our streets and do all the good things we do in Downers Grove. So with that, that's all I got.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Schnell.
Just to comment on what Commissioner Durkin said, that's something that we've been looking at over the last 3 or 4 years in strategic planning, long-range financial planning. I mean, we knew it was coming. It was just a matter of when and how and what big a hit we're going to take. So again, I think it goes back to our staff and the fact that they were able to answer your question so quickly because it's something that, as a council, we've discussed it at long-range financial planning for at least 4 years, I think. And they've had a handle on it, and that's why our staff is so good, because when we do come up with questions or Springfield comes up with these little wonderful things, we're in a position to answer it and react quickly. And I think that's very valuable to this village, particularly to the workings of it.
Right, thank you. And just to put that into context, what Commissioner Durkin and Commissioner Schnell are talking about is Governor Quinn in his budget address raised the specter once again that Springfield might freeze, reduce something with the local government distributed fund, which was set up, I believe, in the 60s to give municipalities a share of the state income tax. And it's proportioned out in different amounts. Different communities will be affected differently, but the specter has been there before. Obviously, there's been a very strong municipal lobby, both by individual municipalities as well as leagues of municipalities, to prevent that, because it would have a huge impact potentially upon different communities if that revenue stream were to be frozen, eliminated, reduced going forward. So there's first and foremost a push to not have that happen at all, but being responsible and good stewards, to use Commissioner Barnett's word, we and staff have prepared for the possibility. We're going to fight like hell to prevent it, but should it happen, we want to make sure that we're well positioned to continue to be a thriving and vibrant community. Commissioner Neustadt.
Thank you, Mayor. A couple of thank yous. A couple of weeks ago now, I guess it was, I had an opportunity to go to Fairmount School to speak with Mrs. Pope and Mrs. Swallow's third grade class. They were learning about civics and local governments. Talked about a lot of good questions. We talked about everything from ladder trucks to stormwater utility to topography and where the water flows and all that stuff, Barth Pond over there in their neighborhood. So it was a great visit. Yesterday afternoon, I happened to be here at Village Hall, and the Boy Scout Troop 54 from Puffer School was here taking a tour of Village Hall. They had the best tour guide of all. Don Wilson was out here along with Michelle King to help them get around Village Hall and see all the cool stuff that we do. So I was happy to see them and thank them for coming. And last, this Thursday, starting in downtown, the Girls' Night Out event is expanding. It's not just one night, it's actually all weekend. From Thursday, March 14th to March 16th, most of, if not all of the shops in downtown Downers Grove will be having specials. I see one of my favorite places, Louisa's and Millie's Chocolates, will be giving away free chocolates to the visitors into the shop on Thursday night. So if you want to find me, that's where I'll be.
Can you leave some for us?
I'll try, yes. So it'll be a good night. Lots of great things happening this weekend in town. Of course, it's St. Patrick's Day on Sunday, so please celebrate in Downers Grove safely and responsibly. A lot of our downtown businesses and even some of our other establishments will be having special celebrations to honor the Irish in all of us. So have a great weekend and happy St. Patrick's Day. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Rankin.
This item was in a manager's report last week when it was canceled due to the snow, but I thought it was a good story to share if everyone didn't have a chance to see it. 77 staff members of 99 were trained in how to use an AED and trained in CPR by one of the people in our fire department. And the article was from 99. It was saying how in the previous years they could only train 10 people. And I just think that's impressive. You know, we're working with 99, providing a mutual benefit to our residents. More people are getting trained in life support techniques, possibly saving lives until our first responders get there. And really, I think the best part of that story is that we're sharing our resources to certify these people. It costs our mutual constituents less. You know, we're providing more value to our residents. So I know that we're always looking for more opportunities to work with other organizations, but I think that's a small story, but it's a really nice story about how we're sharing our resources with our colleagues, I guess we could call them. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Waldeck.
Thank you, Mayor. Originally, I wasn't going to have a report, but it occurs to me that this Friday, Argonne Labs, a neighbor of ours, a lot of our residents work for Argonne, support our businesses and that. Argonne is having a visit from the president, and that involves a lot of air traffic, I guess, helicopters. I'm sure our police department has been notified, and so if you're traveling that day around Argonne, you might notice some traffic differences in that. So just an FYI, that there'll be sure to be a lot of activity when he visits. So just be aware of it. Thank you.
And if you work at Argonne or at Allstate over there, pack your lunch, because my wife works there and has been told it's lockdown.
My wife always brings her lunch. Yeah, lots are closed, traffic, they've been practicing with helicopters, so it's going to be activity in the area.
Looking forward to that. Thank you. For my report, just a few things. First of all, I want to thank Marion Heights for a very successful teen defensive driving course last weekend. It was held at Village Hall. It was a 4-hour program. The Alive at 25 Drivers Awareness Course for Young Drivers was designed by the National Safety Council. My 16-year-old attended, and I know that initially there was some concern about whether people were signing up for it, but it was standing room only when I dropped them off. It was very well attended. He thought it was terrific, really enjoyed it. Candidly, I think he could benefit from it. But the 18-year-old, he's driving just fine. He'll be okay, but the 16-year-old we're still working on. But it was very, very well attended, and I think very successful and well run, and I want to thank Marion for putting that on. I think everyone that participated appreciated it, and another good community service. Second, I want to share with the council and the community a shout out that Downers Grove got at a speech given by Alex Clifford, who is the executive director of Metra. Commissioner Durkin and I were at a City Club luncheon. Actually, I had the privilege of being Commissioner Durkin's guest at the luncheon. And again, a packed room of executives down in the city, and Mr. Clifford was talking about Metra and some of its accomplishments, and lo and behold, he gets to a slide, and what do we see? The Belmont Grade Separation Project, which he was not only touting as another accomplishment, but mentioned that apparently, not only has it received one award, but he hinted that it will be receiving another award.
Prestigious.
Thank you, prestigious award. Because we just can't have awards anymore.
He had no idea we were there. That was the best part of it.
So that was a little pleasant surprise. There was a little shout out to Downers Grove, to the room, and I have to say that hearing all the complaints from the riders on the southern lines, the southern metro lines, we got it made here on the BNSF, because they were complaining about different service and schedules that, candidly, I think we take for granted here. And some of the other lines just don't have it. But good news is, and now I'm going to geek out as a commuter for a minute, talking about power outlets and Wi-Fi on the trains. That would definitely boost my productivity. But anyway, so I just wanted to share that shout out from Mr. Clifford at Metro. And I think that's it. Other than that, I just want to join everyone else, as Commissioner Neustadt said, in wishing everyone a safe and happy St. Patrick's Day. It's the one day of the year that we're all Irish, and for those of us who are Irish, it's a holy day of obligation, so I will be celebrating appropriately. So with that, I will ask for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Commissioner Schnell?
Aye.
Commissioner Durkin?
Aye.
Commissioner Rankin?
Aye.
Commissioner Barnett?
Aye.
Commissioner Neustadt?
Aye.
Commissioner Waldeck?